Hello students, good afternoon and welcome to our math class today. We are continuing our lesson on ratio. Last week we studied about how we can write ratio and how we can simplify our ratios. In today's lesson, we will be looking at how we can use ratio in sharing. So our subtopic becomes sharing in ratio. How can you use ratio to share fairly? Let's find some examples and see how we can use ratio in sharing. Our first example, we have that Sally and Bob bought a car for $15,000. Sally paid $10,000 and then Bob paid $5,000. So first of all, we need to put their amounts into a ratio so that we can see a clear picture of how it looks like. So first of all, we can say that Sally is the first person mentioned here. He paid $10,000, okay? So it becomes $10,000 each to the $5,000 that Bob paid. Okay, so this is the ratio that we can write here with the respect to the money that they paid to get $15,000 for the total cost of their car. So we're going to reduce this ratio into a smaller unit, okay? So to simplify, it becomes 2:1, okay? That means Sally paid twice as much as Bob. So the ratio finally becomes 2:1. So 2 goes for Sally and 1 goes for Bob. Our question continues to say that 5 years later, they sold the car for $9,000. So after they've used the car for some years, of 5 years, they sold the car for $9,000. They have to share the money fairly between them. So this is the point that we have to use the ratio. In using ratio for sharing, these are the 3 things that we have to note. The first thing that you have to note is that you have to add up the numbers in the ratio. Okay, so first we need to add up the numbers in the ratio. Okay, so we add up ratio, so that will be equal to 2 plus 1 equal 3. Okay, so we will get 3 parts or 3 total ratio. The next thing is you have to divide the amount to be shared by the total addition of the ratio, okay? So we do our division. So we divide by total ratio, okay? Okay, so we're going to divide the amount to be shared, this amount, by the total ratio, okay? And that will be equal to 900 divided by 3, and that is going to give us 3,000, okay? So when you divide your $9,000 by 3, it's going to give us 3,000, okay? Now you use multiplication to work out the value of each part. That means each part will be 3,000, okay? So if you want to find out how much Sally has to get in this money, we write Sally, and then Sally had 2 here, so we have to multiply our 2 by 3,000, that will be equal to 6,000. And then Bob, the ratio for Bob is 1, so we need to multiply 1 by 3,000, and that is going to give us $3,000. Okay, so if you add this money up, it's going to give you the total of $9,000. So that means they have shared the money fairly according to the ratio of how they contributed to buy the car, and everybody will be satisfied with that. Let's see our second example. So our second example too, we're going to use ratio to share an electricity bill between Alex and that of Paul. So Alex and Paul shared an electricity bill in the ratio of 5 to 4. The electricity bill is $72. How much does each of them pay? Okay, so as we know from our ratio, the first value or the first number goes to the first person that was mentioned, and the second person that was mentioned takes the second number as well. Okay, so to find the amount of money that each person paid, we need to first add up our ratio. Okay, so add up ratio will be equal to 5 plus 4, and that will give us 9 part. Okay, so that is going to give us 9 part. Now we know that the money is $72, so we need to divide the amount, okay, the amount to be shared by the total ratio. Okay, I hope you are following. So the amount to be shared is 72 divided by 9, and that will give us 8. Okay, so you need to divide the amounts to be shared by the total ratio, and that will be 72 divided by 9, and that will give us 8 here. So once we know that each point represents 8, now what we have to do is that we have to find Alex, how much Alex need to pay. So Alex's point is 5, and we're going to multiply that with 8, and that will give us 40. And then Paul, so we take Paul. So Paul's money or point was 4, and we have to divide that by 8, and that will give us 32. So if you add these two together, that will give you your $72 for the electric bill. Okay, so this looks very simple, and I hope that you have enjoyed following me from the first example up to the second example, and you are prepared to have your first activity. Your first activity is from the learner's book. Open at page 139, exercise 14.2, questions 5 to 10. When you complete, we will meet in our second video. Students, welcome back to our second video on our lesson ratio. We have gone through how we can use ratio in sharing from our first video. Again, in this video, we will be doing 3 more examples to see how we can always share using our ratio, okay? So the example that we have is that we're supposed to share these amounts between Ken and Richard, okay? So Ken is mentioned first and then Richard is mentioned second. That means whenever you come to your ratio, the first item or the first number that you find here goes for Ken, and then the second one goes for Richard, okay? So that is how you identify your ratio at all time in respect to the statement that was given. So the first amount that they need to share is $24 in a ratio of 1:3, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is to add up our ratio. So we will have 1 plus 3, that will be equal to 4. So we will have 4. Then the next thing that we need to do is to divide our total amount that they are going to share by the total ratio, and that is going to give us 6, okay? So we have 6 here. So once we know that we have 6 here, the next thing that we need to do is now to find out the amount that each person will be getting. So first we write Ken. In the proportion, Ken is having 1 point, so that means it will be 1 multiplied by 6, okay, and that will be 6. And then Richard is having 3, so it's going to be 3 by 6, that will be $18, okay? So when you add your 18 and that of 6, it should give you the total amount that they have to share, and that will be 24. The next one, they need to share 49 in a ratio of 1:6. So first we do 1 and 6, and that will be equal to 7. That means we are adding the ratio up. We need to divide the total amount that they are going to share by the total ratio, and that will give us 7. So now we know that each component or within the ratio, each part is 7, okay? So Ken is having 1 times 7, that will give us 7. And then Richard having 6 points, okay, so it's having 6 by 7, and that will give us 42, okay? So if you add, it should give you $49. So that means we are sharing it fairly on that point. Let's look at the last example. They're going to share $32 in a ratio of 3:1, okay? So we need to add our ratio, and that will give us 4. And then the total amount that they are sharing divided by this, that will give us 8. So we know that each unit is 8. So now we take Ken. Ken is having 3 points. Okay, so having 3 points by 8, and that will give us 24. And then we look at Richard. So Richard is having just 1 point by 8, and that will give us 8. So we do this one, and that gives us $32. Okay, so this is how you can go through your sharing using ratio at all times, so that everybody will be satisfied about how the sharing was done. I hope you have enjoyed the section as well as the first section. we will have our second activity. That will be from the Skills Builder book section. Open to page 69, exercise 14.2. You have questions 4 up to 8. Wish you good luck. I'll see you in our last video. Hi students, welcome to our final video on our lesson ratio. From the previous 2 videos, I am certain and confident that you have enjoyed our lessons on this particular topic. We will conclude our lesson now by doing a quick review about what we have studied today. So basically our lesson has been on ratio, and we have studied how we can use ratio to divide or to share things up. In ratio, we always write our ratio depending on the instruction or the statement that was given. Example, this ratio, it was between Ken and Richard. So Ken has to be the first item, and then Richard will be the second item. The key thing that you need to keep whenever you are using a ratio to do sharing or dividing are these 3 key statements. The first one is you need to add up your ratio numbers. That means we need to add your ratio numbers and have a total ratio that gives the total parts that you are dealing with. The next thing that you need to do is to divide the amount that you are sharing between those people by the total ratio that was gotten. Okay, so you divide your ratio, the amount to be shared, by the total addition of your ratio. Once you do that, the answer that you get becomes a unit of the total ratio amounts that you're going to deal with. So the next thing is we have to use multiplication to work out the value of each part. Each part means each part of the ratio. Okay, so the multiplication is going to be that you're going to multiply your answer that you got from the division by the ratios that you are working around it, as you have done in the first and second activities for today. I would like to say big thank you for your participation and your cooperation. I wish that we meet very soon at school. I'll see you on this section next week. Goodbye.